going through the service menu options to display 540p from the GameCube. I have Swiss, which has already been loaded up. I got Twilight Princess in the disc tray. So we're going to go ahead and show the settings here. We're going to set. So we got, as you can see, we got at the top right, we got 540p 60 for force video mode. The vertical filter, we'll make sure that's on 0. I'm sorry, that's offset. The vertical filter right here, it is on 0. All their options are going to stay the same, and as you can see, my set is on 480p mode. It's stretched out for some reason right now. It's not going to be like that in 540p. It's back here as a save. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and hit A to boot. And you see the 480p on the right side of the screen. That's going to change to 1080i, and the menu is going to be perfect. It's going to ask to display in progressive mode, but it doesn't matter because whether you choose that or not for the GameCube, it will be progressive and with no scrolling or scaling artifacts. So right now it's in true 540p, feeding directly from the GameCube to the set via component video. I have a OEM Nintendo component cables, and as you can see, it's basically perfect. We have about 3/4 of an inch to the left and the right of the screen, and as I'm going to demonstrate, this is because I have my TV set up for the RT5X 540p mode, and it's perfect through the RT5X, which it displays, I guess, a little different horizontal scaling, but I had it set up through that. When you do GameCube Direct, it shrinks it by a little bit horizontally. The vertical changes a little bit too, but less than the horizontal. So anyway, as you can see, I'm already on H size right now for the service menu, and I'll demonstrate that I got a lot more stretch left if I wanted it. 31, and if I stretch it right here to fill the screen up at 41, it fills the screen. I have a lot more stretch. I can go all the way to 63. That's way overstretched there, but it's not necessary. So we're going to go back to 41 because 31, because I'm going to go back and connect the 5X after a while. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and show all the options that I currently have set in this TV on this video, because I'm too lazy to write them down, and I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not going to create a fancy edit of a video either. I'm just going to go ahead and scroll through them quick enough so it doesn't take forever, but slow enough to where you can pause the video and take whatever settings you want. So right here we're in the 2170 D2 menu. Let's back it up. I'm going to back up to where it basically starts. Alright, when you first get in the service menu, this is what you're going to see. And I'm using the number 1 button to scroll through the options one at a time. Here we go. Most of these I haven't touched. When I get to one that I did touch, I'll point it out, and then I don't remember all of them. Nothing on the 3D comb filter menu has done anything for me. While I live, I don't think we did anything on this one. SSMD is one to point out. That's default at 0. When I first got this set, when you plug in like a 16-bit era system on the composite port, or even I think with the component, if you're using a transcoder or you got an RGB modded system or component modded system, it would lose sync. Like with Sega Genesis was one of the first sets that I tried on this TV. and it would work, but then it would blank out every couple of seconds and do some really wonky things. I found there's a YouTube video that miraculously figured out that this is the setting right here. You set it on 3 and it does nothing else but prevent the sync dropouts. And I did it. I set it on 3 and never looked back, never had a problem again. So we're going to continue here. And if you don't know, I haven't mentioned it, the 2 zeros at the top, the one on the left is your menu item number or line number, and the one on the right is your actual setting. So bright red drive, green drive. This is if you want to tune the color on your set. As I said, in this 2170p2 menu, I don't think I changed anything. There's a lot of options in these sets that you don't really want to touch. If you change them, you won't see a difference, but it may throw something off in a mode you're not sure of or you're not currently on. It could do a lot of weird things. So you really only want to touch what you need. And some settings save according to the input mode you're in or the resolution you're in, and others are universal, save across all modes. This ID switch is the one I had first used, and it does a large stretch on its own, but the problem is you can't save it. I would use a number 1 and it was perfect before I found some other settings, but you can't. It always reverts back to 0 if you power the set off, so it's pointless. So I wasn't able to get anything going with that, but I found some other options. Thankfully, I got it good to where it'll say when you turn the set on and off. This ABLT, I'm not sure if that's one I had to adjust or not. Anyway, you'd be safe to use the setting I have here. V position, the vertical position, obviously that's been adjusted. All these settings right here in this 2170D1 are going to be customized based on what I'm running on my set. So depending on what you run, how you run it, you're going to have different settings here. This is all geometry settings. S correction, VSyn, VPN. There's a lot of good geometry correction options here on these sets. This one right here may be an important one. Aspect switch, I think I got it set to a 1. If we go to 0, yeah, you lose some vertical. So you gain that vertical by having it on 1, and that's what you want. ASPT, I'm not sure what that did. I thought maybe that had something. 63 if I adjust it. Yeah, that gives you some vertical. I got it maxed out. So it's maxed out. It's a separate vertical control versus VSIZ, which I have a lot left. And I think if you go V-size too much, maybe that's the one that stretches out your service menu text. I haven't had any issues doing it like this, and I still have a lot of, well, actually I showed horizontal earlier, so V-size, I'm not sure where I'm at. Let's continue. 31 is the screen position. Horizontal, H position, 24, H size, 31. Yeah, so we saw that a while ago. Linearity, middle pin, pin. All these are custom, upper pin, lower pin. These are some like lower extreme. These do some changes to the upper and lower corners of the screen. I think maybe it's this one, upper and lower. So all these were tuned based on my set here. BPHA, I'm not sure about that one. Well, boo, boo. We're gonna get to the vertical after a while, and I'll see where my vertical size is. I have jump on 1. Yeah, jump on 0. That one actually gives you way more vertical than you need and stretches out your menu. You don't want that. This is dynamic focus. This one's pretty cool right here. If you have a grid pattern up, you can look at the corners of the screen. It adjusts the focus in the corners, which is pretty cool. EWDC. It seems like that one did something, but I see it has it set at 0. I don't quite remember. AGCS. I'm not sure. I see I have it as a 1. Here's the digital or I'm sorry, dynamic convergence menu. This one has a lot of cool stuff to adjust convergence on vertical lines at different corners of the screen. So you can choose upper left, lower right, etc., and even like lower middle right or upper middle right, and you can really get some good convergence tuned in on these things. Basically, this is the best convergence I've ever seen on a set this size, and when I got it, it wasn't nearly the best I'd ever seen. But playing with these and a few permalloy strips in the back, I got it really nice. The geometry is not perfect. There's a little bit of a bow, vertically in the 4 corners, but it's very little. And when you display a scrolling grid pattern, it's really good. And the S correction and all that, you have to pay attention to make sure that you have, with a grid, you have a square in the middle, and that it doesn't stretch to a rectangle as it moves to the side. And the same from top to bottom. You want to get them all basically the same size, and then that's going to fix a lot of the fisheye effect, as people have described it, in either vertical or horizontal scrolling on these flat tubes. DP switch. I think it's this mid 3 right here that adjusts the vertical, the actual digital scaling of these sets. When you first put 480p directly into like HDMI port, at least on this set, it was off. The scan lines they looked good at first, but then as you look, they fade in waves. They fade vertically from top to bottom and fade in and fade out very subtly, but they're definitely off. And if you play with that, you can actually get them perfect. But the HDMI port I've found, at least on this set, is extremely wonky. Sometimes you plug in with the 5X and it cuts off like the top quarter and bottom quarter of the image for no reason. If you unplug the HDMI and plug it back in, it'll be perfect. And it'll be perfect for the duration that you play. And then I've seen some strange wavy artifacts on different resolutions, strange jumping artifacts on certain resolutions using the HDMI port, so I gave up on it. It's too much trouble. And the image I got here using the component port is beautiful, and you can't do 540p over the HDMI anyway. You can do 1080i, 960i, 480p, but it starts getting wonky when you get to 480p sometimes. So you can do 1080i, 960i over the component port, even with the HDPT equals 0, which is a high definition pass through, which disables all processing. That's what gives you your lag free, input lag free on these sets. It's one of the last settings, if I remember, as you're going through the menu. We're going to be coming up on it soon, I believe. And it only gives you the lag free in 1080i or 540p. I'm not sure about the 960i mode because I don't have a 960i outputting device other than the GameCube, but I can't do a obviously the time sleuth doesn't work at a 960i mode. So I wasn't able to test the 960i input lag. And I want to display the 5X without changing any settings so you can see the difference. But the 5X, at least mine, boots up in a different resolution than 540p. So if you save it at 540, it'll boot up in a different resolution, and you got to blindly hit a menu and the correct order of buttons to blindly put it back into 540p. And for some reason today, of all days, making this video, I can't get it in 540p, so I'm gonna have to take it in the house and plug it into VGA monitor. I'm sorry, not VGA monitor. Here we go. I think we're just about done here. HDPT, there it is, one of the last settings. You want this at 0. Actually, if I change it right now, you'll see it's gonna, I think it's gonna jump back into 1080i. Yeah, I don't know if you saw that, but you can see the slight vertical jitter now in the menu. It's actually in 1080i mode. It's interlacing the screen. It actually showed 1080i the whole time, but it was not interlaced. It was progressive. If I go back to 0, it goes back to progressive. And you also go from about 1.5 milliseconds of lag. I'm sorry, it's in the zeros actually, with a time sleuth and a component HDMI to component transcoder going into the component port. It's in the zeros, 0.3, 0.5 milliseconds, something like that. With the 5X, it gets you around, I think, 1.5 milliseconds, 1.5 to 3, depending on your if you're frame locked or, there we go, frame locked or triple buffer. Well, I always use frame lock. It works great. So we're back through. We should have captured all the options there for my current setup. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the video now, and I'll try to maybe make another one with the 5X if I can get it output into the set. Alright, so this is a quick video. I have the 5X hooked up through the porta HDMI to component converter into the number 5 component port on this. And I'll show you real quick the settings I have on the 5X. The TV settings have not changed from what I showed you earlier with GameCube Direct 540p. As you can see, it takes up the whole screen now, despite I still have the same settings that had about 3/4 of an inch on each side horizontally with the GameCube straight in. So I'm still at a width of 31. But anyway, here's my 5X settings for anybody who's interested. We'll start with the input. I'm using YPVPR, obviously from the GameCube. Output resolution, as you can see, 540p. That's what we got. Scaling, crop, all zeros. I don't think I adjusted any of this right here. Don't think I may have, I'm not sure, but I don't think I did. Right here, vertical filter sharp, Bob Diener laser, CRT simulate. Horizontal sampling, generic 16:9. This is important because if you change this, watch what happens. So you lose a lot of, it's the video showing right now, but yeah, you can see. You lose a lot of the screen, whether you go to DTV, H58A or B, generic 4.3, that doesn't change anything, but you go back to your 16:9 and you get your perfect scaling. And you know, it's showing a video now, but you can see it's full screen when you actually start the game. There you go, full screen. So, oops, go back. That's what it looks like without it. There it is. Alright, so phase detect NA, lock speed, slow, ADC sampling. I didn't mess with any of that. Post processing, I have scan lines off, but really I should have them on. Because for modes that show 480i, it looks much more authentic if you have scan lines with the CRT simulate mode. All this stuff I think is basically for stock. SD-TV decoder, everything's NA. These right here, I don't think any of these make a difference for the 540p or 480p outputs. Let's see. HDMI, frame lock, color space RGB full. You can change that. You definitely want it on full. All this stuff. This 16:9 doesn't make a difference when you change it. That's if you go into the HDMI port, it does. Absolutely does. But if you go to the HDMI port on the TV, save profile, load profile, status. As you can see, we got YPPPR, output res 540p, input lines 525. Everything's looking as it should right there. 31.47 kilohertz. About. So this is the Happy Holidays version. Obviously, if you get the the latest 540p firmware, it was around the Christmas time, I think, that Mike had released it. And so he had this on there. I did try to hit Mike up on Twitter to see if he could please, and I'm sure he's busy and probably won't have time to mess with it, but this particular firmware that has the 540p, it would be awesome if he could take away this 240p mode, or really maybe take away the 1200p mode, some modes that most people don't use, and put a 1080i mode, because some people have these sets and they display 1080i regardless of if you go in feed 540p into the component, and even if you change HDPT to 0, and they don't have the circuitry to show anything but 1080i. And it would be great to have that option. This basically would be the HD CRT firmware, and that would give compatibility to a lot of people that don't have, if they have a set that doesn't show the 540p out. So anyway, Mike, if you can help us out when you get time, that would be fantastic. So yeah, I'll just show you real quick that I have not adjusted. I think it was on 31 for the horizontal stretch. So yeah, there it is, horizontal size 31. So I actually have a ton more stretch if I want it. I mean, way more than you ever possibly need. It goes to 63. Set to 31 is just perfect on here. So as you can see, it looks fantastic. There's nothing going on the screen. If you go to zoom mode, you do get these little, often you get these little wobbles. although I'm not seeing it right now. It's very subtle. Yeah, I'm not seeing it at all right now, but a lot of times whenever you try to use the zoom, gives you a ton more vertical, but I don't use it because like Choo Choo said on that Shmups post, you get like a strange little wavy distortion effect that kind of pulsates often on different modes when you use that zoom. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, so I really don't know if there's a setting or what causes it, but there you have it. This thing looks beautiful, fantastic for anybody who has one of these sets. I'm going to be trying GunCon 2 with Dino Crisis on PS2 if I can find my Dino Crisis CD or DVD. I have everything ready to go, but I can't find the dang game. I don't know where I put it, so but I'm not sure, but I'm hoping that it may actually work, because with these settings, it's the menu is service menu is not stretched out, so maybe the set is it'll actually, you know, the GunCon can recognize and track the scanning electron beam, whereas it couldn't before because I had everything so stretched out. I'm thinking that it was just not tracking properly, so maybe it'll work. We'll see.